This is a stimulus update and daily news report, and things are changing so much on a day-to-day basis. Inflation is here to stay, according to some experts, and one supermarket owner is saying that prices will rise in the grocery store up until October, which means that the need for a fourth stimulus check is more important now than ever, especially with the Delta variant surging. Some are calling for a fourth stimulus check to happen now. I'm going to go over this latest article that just came out today saying there may be a fourth stimulus check, and the reason may surprise you. We'll dive into that article. With the eviction moratorium being extended, some are saying that this can't be legal and it goes against the Constitution and is getting a bunch of landlords filing lawsuits against the Biden administration. When it comes to infrastructure, looks like a deal is still not done yet, and the recess for the Senate starts tomorrow, for which is going to be several weeks. But Chuck Schumer said that there is still going to be a deal before anybody in the Senate could go on their vacation. I'll also play you a new video clip from Bernie Sanders, then I'll answer the questions you leave for me in the comments. Hope you're having a terrific Thursday. If you appreciate these fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So New York City mandates proof of vaccination for many indoor settings, meaning that if you want to go to restaurants, Broadway shows, the gym, you're going to have to show proof of vaccination if you live in New York City. Now, this is starting a trend because it looks like in San Francisco, they may follow New York City's vaccine mandate. Now, if San Francisco does it, it could mean that other big cities will do it as well. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. Do you think we're going to have more cities doing vaccine mandates? Are states going to do vaccine mandates? What are your thoughts on vaccine mandates in general? Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. And not just with vaccine mandates, but a lot of things are changing here. So inflation is here to stay, according to a financial advisor, saying wages are going up, and typically what happens is they just don't go down over time. So they don't temporarily go up and go back down. Even if you're going out to the grocery store, things are just more expensive. So not only do I think inflation is not transitory, I think it's here to stay, and I really think it will impact different markets. Speaking of high grocery prices, inflation will cause grocery prices to rise even higher by October, meaning that grocery prices are not expected to go down, but actually continue to go up for a few more months until October, according to one billionaire supermarket owner. Here's a quick video clip of him explaining more about that.
We're both in the food business and we're in the oil business, and food prices are getting higher, and we expect even more increases by October, and we're seeing anywhere from 10 to 14% by October 1st. So it's a real number. And oil prices, I know they're a little bit off today, but I expect even higher numbers. And it's a real, it's a sine wave, and everything just goes up and down. But it's, I expect by October, you're going to have over a 6% annualized rate of inflation.
Wow.
And food prices.
Are you having to pass? Yeah, I was going to say, are you having to pass those extra costs on to consumers?
Well, you have to pass it on. Otherwise, you're not going to. You're not doing your duty to guard your country, your employees, and your company.
With prices continuously increasing in the grocery store and increasing in general, a need for a fourth stimulus check is more important now than ever. And with the Delta variant surging, what's the status of a possible fourth stimulus check? So here's the timeline of what's going on with a fourth stimulus check. So far, in May, there were 6 members of the House and Ways and Means Committee who sent a letter to President Biden calling on additional payments to be made to Americans, calling the payments a lifeline during the ongoing pandemic. So this was the $2,000 per month payment, saying the pandemic has served as a stark reminder that families and workers need certainty in a crisis. They deserve to know they can put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. So that was back in May. And then in June, Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked about more stimulus checks, and she said it is up to President Biden to decide whether or not there's going to be more, saying he's happy to hear from a range of ideas on what would be most effective and what's most important to the economy moving forward. Now, that letter that was written, it's a possible fourth stimulus check, now has support from over 80 Democrat members of Congress. So that letter was written and a lot of people signed off on it, including Bernie Sanders, including many other big senators and House progressives. Now, there is support for a fourth stimulus check, but it hasn't really moved forward much lately. So many Americans can't afford $400 expense prior to COVID-19, how stimulus checks change that. So this article just came out yesterday, starting to see more and more articles talking about the need for a forced stimulus check, saying here many Americans would have had a hard time paying an unexpected $400 expense even before the COVID-19 pandemic. After 3 stimulus checks, many Americans were able to build up some of their cash reserves, but whether or not those balances stay remains to be seen, meaning that the need for a forced stimulus check could help people because the last stimulus checks were too little too late, and especially with increasing prices and incomes not fully replaced yet, the need for a forced stimulus check could be more eminent now than ever. So this article just came out today, stimulus check update. There may be a forced stimulus check, and the reason may surprise you. So this article goes on to talk about the need for a forced stimulus check, saying how the emergence of the Delta variant may result in some setbacks. We're unlikely to see the record high unemployment numbers that emerged at the start of the pandemic when weekly jobless claims were getting logged in the millions. Not only is the Delta variant causing more problems, it's more contagious, which may have another lockdown. We're seeing in China, Australia, parts of Europe, and as well as other parts around the world, Vietnam, that lockdowns are starting to happen more and more despite the high vaccination rates. So now more than ever, it seems that the case for a forced stimulus check is more prominent and could push lawmakers to have a forced stimulus check in that infrastructure, the human infrastructure bill. We're still waiting to see the bill text on that. I'll keep you updated when it comes to that. This next article saying that 26 states ended federal unemployment benefits early, and data suggests it's not getting people back to work. So every other day I'm kind of seeing these articles saying that ending the unemployment early helped job creation. This one's saying it hurt job creation. So Homebase and UKG, which offer time management and payroll services, issued separate analysis indicating that employment hasn't increased in states that ended in federal unemployment benefits early. So those benefits ended before the September 6th expiration date. There are still 24 states continuing that $300 per week unemployment boost. When it comes to evictions, so landlords mount legal challenge to Biden administration's new eviction moratorium, basically saying that it is not legal, it's against the Constitution. Even President Biden said that when he extended the eviction moratorium until October 3rd, an extra 60 days, that it may not be completely legal, but until the time that it gets fully challenged, hopefully the rental assistance money will go out up until that point. Here is a video clip from Senator Kennedy talking about the reasons why the eviction ban extension was a bad idea. I'm going to cut in and correct him with a few data points here.
Biden administration extending its ban on evictions for many renters, and they'll do it through an order with the CDC. This is happening after the White House said its hands were tied by a recent Supreme Court ruling. That came at the end of June. They lost that ruling. Here we are in August, and they're going back to it regardless. Republican Senator John Kennedy, Louisiana, member of the Judiciary Committee. Sir, good day to you. Got a few questions for you. Your colleague Tom Cotton tweeted, Biden even admits it's unconstitutional, and he concludes with the word lawless. What's going on in that town?
Well, I think it is unconstitutional. That's never stopped the permanent Washington types from doing something, but I do think it's unconstitutional, and I think it's unwise. I don't want anybody to have to lose their home, but look, it's time that we rejoin the world. And we have spent, we meaning the Congress, about $4.7 trillion helping the American people recover from the coronavirus. Our economy is clearly recovering. In my state, we sent Louisiana $550 million to help people with rental assistance. We've only spent $50. So that tells me there's not a big need there.
So I'm gonna have to cut in there. Personally, I'm an independent and I believe in values and principles with both Republicans and Democrats. I believe in policies, not people, politicians, or parties. With that being said, I like to point out the facts. I think Senator Kennedy is cherry picking here a bit, saying that $550 million was available for rental assistance in Louisiana, but only $50 million was used. Therefore, there isn't a need for the other $500 million in rental assistance. That is a false statement. And the reason why the other $500 million hasn't been sent out to people is because the state's computer systems and software systems and glitches haven't been able to get it out to the renters in time for this eviction moratorium to happen. So out of the $46 billion that was given for rental assistance to Americans in every single state, only $3 billion have been distributed so far. So for Senator Kennedy to point out that, I think is a little misleading, but here's the rest of the interview right here.
What do they tell you about the natural forces of capitalism? You know, you can look to some of these states right now. In Nebraska, unemployment's 2.5%. That's awesome. Yeah. In Utah, it's 2.7%. In New Hampshire and South Dakota, it's 2.9%. In Idaho, it's 3%. So your point about the economy recovering is very well taken. But at what point do we take our foot off the gas?
Well, we're there. We've had a V-shaped recovery. We're now generating a GDP that is slightly greater than it was before the pandemic started. We have, 10 million jobs openings that we can't fill.
So I'm going to have to butt in one more time. So with him saying, talking about states such as Idaho, South Dakota, Nebraska, those are the lowest population states. And to pick those, saying it's 2%, 3%, which is great for those states, but it's kind of cherry picking data, as opposed to using states such as Florida, California, New York, Texas, with higher populations. So he's kind of cherry picking data there, saying that the economy is getting better and the unemployment rate is better as well. And also the idea of using an unemployment rate for an entire state is a little misleading as well, because there could be small towns where the unemployment rate could be as high as 15%, where there's one big factory or one big business that is supporting the whole town's economy. If that goes down, then the unemployment rate could skyrocket for that one town, but then it gets averaged into the entire state. So I just wanted to point out those details, because it's a little misleading to say that the economy is getting better based on low population state economies. Anyway, that's my opinion. Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. Next, let's talk about infrastructure. So Chuck Schumer threatens withholding August recess until infrastructure bills are finalized. So the August recess actually starts tomorrow, Friday, August 6th, and that means that the Senate is going to be on vacation for several weeks. But Chuck Schumer is saying that nobody's going on vacation until things are done. So where are we with things getting done? Bipartisan infrastructure bill inches through Senate as Schumer pledges to stay until it passes. So I guess the silver lining here is that they are not going on their vacation compared to the House, which went on their vacation last week and won't come back until September 20th. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who is in charge of the Senate, basically telling all the senators, hey guys, we're not going home until we finish these packages. So the Senate is voting on a string of amendments to the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure plan as Majority Leader Chuck Schumer tries to pass the bill this week. This week, we only have one more business day up until this week. They may finish it over the weekend, but how many times have we heard that they're going to work over the weekend? Enough is enough here, just get it done. The problem here, though, is that there's a lot of amendments. I think over 300 amendments, meaning that all of these senators are saying, hey, I want to add this amendment to it because I want my hometown or my home state to get several $100 million so that we could fix our roads, our highways. So they're all kind of putting in their own things here, which makes the legislation process very messy because everyone's trying to sneak in their own stuff compared to helping out the broader good of Americans. And this is happening with both Democrats and Republicans on this. When it comes to the bipartisan infrastructure package, one of those things that people are including, an example of people kind of having their own special interest, bipartisan infrastructure bill includes $1 billion for commission run by Senator Joe Manchin's wife. I mentioned this the other day, so a lot of these senators are kind of helping out their own, both Democrats and Republicans, so they could kind of benefit from it, maybe directly or indirectly. For example, $1 billion is a lot of money for a commission for Senator Joe Manchin's wife. So we're starting to see a lot more of those things in it. We don't know all the amendments. There's hundreds of them, and they could be hundreds of pages each. So we're still waiting to see if more shady money is being thrown out there. I'll definitely keep you up on that because I like holding politicians accountable, especially with things like that. Next up, let's talk about Bernie Sanders saying why we need the $3.5 trillion reconciliation package. So that reconciliation package is where the human infrastructure and stimulus provisions are. We still have not seen the bill text. If we are going to have a fourth stimulus check, it's going to be in that package. Here's Bernie Sanders talking more about the need for that.
Yes?
No, sir.
No, okay. Mr. President, as a former mayor, I have a sense as to how important physical infrastructure, roads, bridges, water systems, wastewater plants are. And I'm delighted that we are finally beginning to address our long neglected physical infrastructure. That is enormously important. But I will tell you what is even more important, and that is to address the human infrastructure, the needs of the working class of this country, the middle class of this country, the low-income people of our country, whether they are black or white or Latino, Native American, Asian American, needs that have been neglected for decades. It is no secret to the American people that for a very long time, the United States Congress has paid keen attention to the needs of the people on top. And yet we have turned our backs on millions of people who are struggling to put food on the table, to take care of their kids, to take care of their parents. And on top of that, obviously, we have ignored the great existential crisis of our time, and that is climate change. And the result of all of that is that today the gap between the very, very rich and everybody else is wider than it has been in 100 years. Today you have two people who own more wealth than the bottom 40%. And for many of our billionaire friends, apparently they are increasingly unconcerned about what happens here on Earth because they're often out of space. But some of us who go home every weekend to our states and our districts, we kind of are worried about what's going on down on Earth and the needs of working families. So, Mr. President, as you know, as soon as we address this bipartisan physical infrastructure bill, we are going to move toward what I consider to be one of the most consequential pieces of legislation for working families since FDR, the New Deal, and the Great Depression. And we are going there and addressing the needs of working families because we understand that real wages for workers have not gone up in 50 years, an explosion of technology, explosion of worker productivity, and yet in real inflation accounted for dollars, many workers today are not making a nickel more than they did 50 years ago. We're going forward on the reconciliation bill to address the needs of the working class because in the richest country in the history of the world, it is unacceptable that half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. They go to work, and at the end of the week, they got nothing in the bank, and maybe they're even further behind because they can't afford their health care needs, the rent.
What are your thoughts on what Bernie Sanders said? Do you agree, disagree? Next, I'm going to answer the questions you leave for me in the comments. LTC Cook asks, why are teachers getting money and schools are not? So basically what's going on here is the money that would go to the schools, they're actually turning them into $1,000 checks for teachers, which is the argument against the teachers getting $1,000 checks, saying that the money should go towards the school instead of the teachers. So that's the counter argument there. Next, Cindy Chavez asks, how do we get the stimulus from our state? Mine is in New Mexico. So New Mexico, if anybody did not receive a stimulus check, or I think got one payment of unemployment, then you get a $750 stimulus check. So I would look up, if you're in New Mexico, look up the $750 stimulus check for New Mexico, and then you could find out more information on that. Terry Schramm says, I live in Florida, not a teacher or a first responder, so no check for me. But what happened to the $10,000 to the frontline workers we were going to get? I'm not in one of those either. So yeah, there was supposed to be hazard pay in many different states, and then it looked like things were getting better, and so they're like, oh, nobody needs hazard pay anymore. Everyone's getting vaccinated, no more masks, everything is fine. But the way things are turning out right now, it looks like hazard pay may be needed again, especially if people are, interacting with people when they're saying there shouldn't be interaction going on. Next question, Nini Roan asks, what about working class people? We're left out of everything, can't even get hazard pay. Yeah, so hazard pay was really popular several months ago before the vaccine. Once the vaccine came around, hazard pay just kind of disappeared. But it looks like as I mentioned before, hazard pay may be making a comeback. SB asks, will there be any help for credit card debt due to the pandemic use? That is a great point, and not a lot of people are talking about that. So credit card debt is not on the table at this point, but it is one of the tools that a lot of people use to survive the pandemic. If there was not enough money going to people, let's say on Social Security, disability, they didn't get enough money compared to people on unemployment, the credit card debt racked up. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, credit card debt hit an all-time high over the past since 13 years ago. So yeah, I think that could be that could help a lot of people as well. Anyway, that is all the stimulus news I have for you today. To hopefully cheer you up a bit, here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, I monster bleeding. I was bleeding. I was. Bye. Hi guys, this is Bill. This is the tip of the day. This is something that I want to tell you. Here now. So, as you learn, you be a better person. So keep on learning, and you'll be a better person. Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching up until this point. If you appreciate all the hours of research that went into giving you this video, hit the like button down below and subscribe for more updates like this. I try to keep it to the point, give my opinion here and there. I like to point out the facts and show you exactly where the information is coming from, so it's not just me kind of making up stuff. I like to show the facts, keep it real. Anyways, if you want to check out any of my other videos, you could click this link down here for stimulus updates, or this link up here for my other channels, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.